Recording.
Oh, got it. All right then. I'm heading to my room to study and sleep. Guess I'll see you all tomorrow.
Have a good night.
I will. You too. With that, I left the dining room and went to my room.
Eric, no. What? I wasn't gonna do anything. Yes, he was. Oh, the fucking flirt. As per. Shh.
As soon as I got into my room, a wave of exhaustion hit me. Why am I so tired all of a sudden? I just woke up from that nap. I dragged myself to my bed and hauled up one of my bags. I opened it and grabbed my economics book, knowing that no matter how tired I was, I had to study at least a page or two before sleeping at last. The words on the page scrambled in my mind as I read through them, but after 2 or 3 tries, I managed to understand what the page was about. Equations. Ugh. Finally, I decided to change into my pajamas and head to bed. Today had been a long day and I needed the rest. Hopefully, tomorrow will be better. 3 days of surprises in a row would kill me. With that thought in my mind, I drifted to sleep, embracing the darkness of the slumber.
Oh. Oh, now I'm gonna have to think of a fucking new voice. I know exactly what fucking character this is. Okay, I'm trying. I can't fucking think of a new voice for her. This is not okay. Ah, you fucking pretty boys think you're all that, huh? Well, see that end of my pistol.
Huh? What's going on? I couldn't move my body. I felt like I was tied up, and I couldn't see anything beyond the darkness that surrounded me. Yet I could hear the sounds of a heated argument coming at me from all directions.
One move and she gets it. Let her go.
Matthew?
Come on, chicken shit. Fight us like a real man. Like you scare me, Sam. Come on. Take one step. I dare ya.
Why can't I see?
Turn down that. I have to turn down fucking VAs on my own because I've been fucking playing it in my spare time.
Ah, gotcha. Understood.
Stay away from her, Malix. And what are you gonna do, nerd boy?
Suddenly, I felt myself pulled to one side, and arms wrapped around my body protectively.
I've got you. Don't worry.
Huh? Huh? Eric? As I was held in a tight embrace, I felt the world around me once again settle into a low, peaceful hum. The hostility of the dream before had faded into the black as the arms around me rocked me comfortingly. Slowly, though, my eyes fluttered open, and I looked up at the person holding me. Damien? I stared into the eyes of Damien. His face was painted with worry and concern, and I knew he must have seen my dream. Why did I dream of Eric holding me, though?
Well, she dreamt of. The man is a giant fucking flirt.
No surprise
If
there.
anything, if anything, that he'd be in fucking my mind if I went to sleep that night.
And I don't blame you.
You can't control your dreams.
Oh, well, I guess you're right.
Are you okay?
Yeah, I'm fine. Thank you. What time is it?
It's 9 a.m. James and I were making breakfast when well,
You can't control your mind reading?
no, not yet, at least. I hope to learn eventually, though. Is everything alright?
Huh? Yeah, I'm alright.
That's good. I'm assuming you just had a nightmare.
Yes, I'm sorry for disturbing you both.
You didn't disturb us, miss. Besides, we'd rather make sure you're okay before anything.
Oh, thank you.
Now, why don't you come downstairs with us and have some breakfast? I'm sure some nice food will take your mind off what you dreamt of.
It was embarrassing to be the damsel in distress once again, but I felt rather happy that James and Damien were concerned for me, despite only knowing me for a short time. I wasn't sure if it was just courtesy or if they were genuinely concerned. I couldn't exactly read their minds. All right. The two boys led me back to the dining room, where the smell of bacon and eggs danced in the air. The smell wafted from the kitchen and made its way into the room, making my stomach growl in need. Breakfast smells good.
We should be done with breakfast soon. If you want to sit down at the table, you can.
I nodded before sitting down. As I sat down, however, my mind drifted back to the dream I had. That feeling of hostility around me made my body shudder instinctively, even though I knew it wasn't real. However, as my eyes closed, I felt a hand place itself on top of my head, breaking me out of my thoughts. Huh?
Good morning. You alright?
Yeah, I'm fine. Sam, the owner of the hand on my head, raised an eyebrow at me before rustling my hair and moving away to sit down at the table. He then barked towards the kitchen, where James was working.
Hey, your food done yet? I'm starving.
There's
Isn't that... Even on the second recording session, you're trying to do more lines.
shit.
It's auto-reading. Auto-reading from you.
Yeah.
There's no need to yell, Sam. You're yelling too. Don't argue with me.
From behind me, Eric appeared and sat beside me, rubbing his temples in obvious annoyance.
Can we not yell this early in the morning? It's not like we're in the castle.
Castle? For some reason, when I heard the word castle, I couldn't help but yell in surprise. These guys had a castle? Sam looked at me and smirked at my reaction.
Yeah, we had a castle back home. My dining room's 10 times bigger than this room. Then it would be logical not to not yell. Whatever.
Soon, James and Damien appeared, hands full of plates that carried bacon, eggs, toast, and waffles. They placed the plates down by each seat before seating themselves.
My favorite. Finally.
Thank you for the breakfast. It looks amazing.
It's our pleasure.
All of a sudden, my phone began to ring, ushering me to pull it from my pocket and answer. Hello? Hey, good morning. Guess who's at your door right now? Right on cue, there was a knock up from the lobby door. My heart stopped. Susan and Naomi were here.
I'll get it.
My heart quickly began to pound in my chest. Matthew was in the lobby and he'd get to the doors first. I instantly jumped out of my chair and rushed out of the dining room. As I passed through archway between the dining room and the lobby, I saw Matthew reach his hand for the brass door handle, causing the world to go in slow motion. Matthew, don't! But before my words could reach his ears, Matthew had opened the door and revealed the surprised faces of Naomi and Suzu.
Uh, uh, um...
The world around me stopped as Suzu and Naomi kept their eyes on Matthew, who merely stared back in fear and embarrassment. I could feel the air go from warm to freezing in a matter of seconds.
Hi?
I could not believe this was happening. How was I going to explain this? This week was already bad enough. To make matters worse, I was frozen in place. Please, for God's sake, someone do something other than stand there. Who are you? Suzu, let me explain. What's going on here?
Who's at the door, Matthew? Oh.
Soon the other incubi appeared in the lobby with us. This situation was not getting pretty. I had to think fast.
Oh,
Alright, what choice are we going here?
No clue. I literally have zero fucking clue.
I'm just gonna go with visitors. You good with that?
Yeah.
Then why did one of them open the door? Yeah, that doesn't make any sense. It was no use. There was no time to lie to them. I felt helpless. Then, I felt a hand on my shoulder and felt the tension in my body almost fade away. I turned my head to see James smile at me before stepping in front of me.
You must apologize, ladies. We know the situation must be confusing for everyone. Let's take this to the dining room and we'll explain everything.
I stared at James wide-eyed. Was he going to tell them who they were? Everything seemed surreal. Before I knew it, I was led to the dining room along with Susan and Naomi and sat across from their confused gazes. As Naomi and Susie sat down, Eric and Matthew placed their untouched plates of food in front of them, surprising their guests. Whoa, this looks amazing! Thank you!
It's our pleasure, ladies. We hope you enjoy your meals. Make sure you dig in.
I looked at Naomi and Susie as they began to eat, visibly enjoying every bite they placed in their mouth. Hopefully the food would ease their minds for whatever James wanted to reveal. As Naomi and Suzu ate their impromptu meals, James and the other boys stood behind my chair, making me grow more red in the face. So, Anderson, are you good to tell us what's going on? Well, you see, gently, James placed a hand on my shoulder again, signaling me to just eat my food. As I began to eat, he spoke to Naomi and Suzu.
We're Miss Anderson's house servants. We were hired by her late grandfather to help the mansion. But since he passed, we now assist Miss Anderson with living on her own.
That makes sense. It's such a huge house.
A huge house for a wonderful princess such as Miss Anderson deserves the greatest of servants to care for it.
But why are you all dressed so casually and stuff? Aren't servants supposed to have uniforms or whatever?
Well, Miss Anderson allows us to get comfy while we work, so she lets us wear casual clothes. Yeah, something like that. We're sorry if we made the situation awkward earlier. We're very sure Miss Anderson is also getting used to having us as her servants. It would be very hard to explain after just a day.
I guess.
So, if I may ask, what brings you two ladies here?
Well, we wanted to see how our friend was doing. Since it's the weekend and all, we usually we just hang out and chill. Yeah, like going to the arcade and stuff. Or the Pink Lady Cafe.
There's an arcade? Ahem. That makes a lot of sense, ladies. Well, we don't wish to disturb you any further than we have, so we'll take our leave and start prepping the house.
Huh? Preparing for what?
We gotta prep the house some sort of housewarming party thing. Our princess's parents requested a housewarming party to be held here soon.
And by soon, they mean tonight. Oh, well, I guess we can help out or something. Right, Naomi? I thought you wanted to go to the arcade. This housewarming thing is more important.
No need, we can handle it if you'd like to. Miss, you can go out with your friends while we handle things here. Seriously? Sam, not now.
Well, I wanted to help out, but at the same time, I wanted to go out with my friends. James gave me a look of understanding, letting me know that if I left, everything would be okay. I had to make a decision. So, what are we gonna do here?
We are going to stay and help around the house. This is your house, and it's your party.
Fair enough.
It wouldn't be very kosher if you just disappeared.
Oh, yeah, true. Good point. So,
Are you sure?
I'm sure. Besides, it is my housewarming party. I should help out too. Want us to help out as well? I think we've gotten all taken care of. Thanks though, girls. Alright, we'll head out then so we're on the way. Sorry guys, I'll hang out with you guys soon. It's all good, Anderson. We'll definitely come to the housewarming party tonight. Thank you. I led them back into the lobby and walked them to their doors, opening it for them with a thankful smile. They both gave me hugs before walking out to Naomi's car, which was parked in the driveway.
She does not look old enough to own a fucking car.
I know. The main girl does, but not exactly Naomi. And with that, they left. I was happy they wanted to help, but I had to do this on my own. It was not their work, so I didn't want to force it on them just because they were my best friends. We had the entire day to work. The party was tonight, and we had to do all we could to make everything right. We sat down and talked about what needed to happen before the party started that night. Each guy had been assigned a different part of the party to do, and right after lunch, we began to work. Since everything was taken care of by at least one incubus, James told me I could assist one of them. The question was, who?
Let's go gardening.
Hell yeah, I like gardening. Let's go gardening. Let's go.
Let's go gardening.
James and I headed out to the garden. It had been years since I had been in Smallfield. The gazebo was smaller than I remembered, but I had grown since I had last seen it. James rolled up his sleeves and took in a breath of air before sighing contentedly.
So, we need to cater to the plants to make sure there are no muddy spots on the grass. It may take a while. Are you sure you wish to help me and not the others?
I shook my head, rolling up my sleeves as well. I can handle it. I'd rather work outside anyway. James nodded with a smile before handing me a watering can, gesturing to a group of flowers by the side of the yard. I walked over and began to water the flowers. However, as silence took control of the air, I felt the need to start a conversation. What are we gonna do?
Ask him a question.
All right, let's go. So, do you like flowers? I wanted to smack myself. That was a terrible conversation starter. I mentally smacked myself before hearing James chuckle softly. I turned to look at him as he nodded.
It's better than my conversation starter when it comes to personal play Cold War quite a bit.
Oh God.
Whenever we enter the fucking VC, we both say hello gamer. Every single time without fucking fail, it's hello gamer.
Yeah, it's better than the political after talks that happen like in modern warfare. Don't get me started on those things. Those things get personal fast. Moving on.
Moving on indeed. They have a wonderful aesthetic. Many people would think flowers are simple and rather boring, but I've learned secrets about flowers.
Secrets about flowers? Like a special way to water them or something?
You could say that. There are right and wrong ways to water flowers.
Can you show me? James gave a small smirk before walking over and standing behind me. I instantly blushed as he brought his arms underneath mine, guiding my watering can. The water gently poured over the dirt, sinking into it and dissolving into the roots. However, my concentration on the water was broken by the sound of James' voice in my ear.
Flowers need to be cared for, gently like a fragile life. Too much power and they'll break, but too little and they'll wither and fade away. It's like caring for a pet or a loved one.
A loved one. For some reason, those 3 words echoed in my head. James continued to guide my watering can, using gentle hands to lead my arms and my body. It was almost like a dance. Eventually, he let go and stepped away from me. I turned to him as he simply smiled at me before returning to his work. I felt my face with my hand, feeling the extreme warmth before shaking my head and continuing to water the raining plants. The hour of the house party had arrived. In my mind, I kept double and triple checking the essentials for the party. Knowing my dad, he invited his business partners and the executives of the Anderson Company to show me off. I stood in front of the mirror in my room, staring at my form as a million thoughts ran through my mind. It was just a housewarming party, but at the same time it wasn't. It was my chance to show my dad that I was better than his expectations. It was a chance for me to see my parents as a woman. It was my test to see if I was really ready to live on my own. Well, not truly alone. I had to incubate to think. But even so, I didn't have my Dad guiding me or my mom helping me through living alone. A knock on my door broke my thoughts, surprisingly. Who is it? Hey, are you okay in there? Your parents should be here soon, so you should hurry getting ready. Well, I'm ready, but. But what? I'm sure you'll look fine, Anderson. Just come on out. All right. As I soon opened the door to the hall, I watched as Naomi and Suzu's faces turned from smiles to complete awestruck stares. What? Dude, you look hot. Yeah, you look amazing. Where'd you get that dress? I've had it for a while. I just never had a chance to wear it. I figured I might as well bring it out now. I stepped out of my room and closed my bedroom door behind me. As I walked down the hall to the grand lobby, the incubi stood waiting for me at the bottom, all dressed to the nines as proper servants.
Also,
Whoa! Yeah?
you're forgetting the person in the background. He's wearing sunglasses. He has black hair, and he wants you to go back to the Matrix.
They
Anyway,
really know how to dress well, don't they? Yeah. I was
color
slightly.
coordinated.
Very good. Fine. Absolute fine. 10-10 with rice. I was slightly taken aback how great the boys looked in uniform. Each had the poise of a perfect gentleman, even Sam. I slowly began to climb down the steps with Suzu and Naomi behind me. The boys watched as I descended the staircase one step at a time, like knights waiting for their princess. I felt my face slightly flush, but I quickly shook my head to try again and regain my thoughts. As I reached the last step, James offered me his hand out to me and walked me down the final step, smiling.
As beautiful as a princess, miss.
Ooh, thank you.
So, are you are you prepared for tonight?
What's the answer here? What's the verdict?
Are you prepared for tonight? Would she be prepared?
Hmm.
How would you respond in this situation?
As ready as I'll
You,
ever be.
yeah, because it's a matter of you went into this house the night, and then the day after you had to prep the house for a party that's happening the night after you go into the house.
Yep. I mean, it is what it is. Let's just. I'll. As ready as I am, given what happened. As ready as I'll ever be. I couldn't deny
Yeah.
that I was nervous, but I had to try. This party was more than what it seemed, and I had done all that I could to prepare for it. Now it was all up to fate. The other boy smiled assuringly at me, which made me feel a little better about everything. I looked at my phone and marked the time. Almost right on cue, the doorbell rang. I gulped.
Also, are you prepared for quick fire questions?
Sure, I can handle him.
The quick fire ones. The quick fire ones. Do exactly as you did on your actual playthrough,
Uh,
your first casual playthrough.
sure.
Make sure that you have the achievement for Dad approves.
I think that's actually what happened when I played it on my laptop, so I think I know this one. I could practically feel my dad's aura from behind the door.
Yeah, that you could feel that man a mile away.
Oh yeah. I don't know what it is with him, but you can feel it. Sam and Eric quickly rushed to the door and opened the double doors wide to reveal my parents both dressed in their best. Hey mom, hey dad. Oh my, I didn't know your bequeathment came with servants.
It was probably overlooked. Besides, who would deny a good service?
I was completely shocked. My parents didn't even question the boys. They didn't ask for verification or anything. I looked to the boys and noticed Sam and Eric staring intently at my parents. Were they using their powers on them? They had to be. And I agree. There was no way they'd be okay with us otherwise.
I guess the servants could be counted as belonging to the house. What an absolute moron.
Fair, I guess. My mother quickly rushed to me and gave me a large hug. I hugged her back, inhaling her perfume. It had only been a couple days, but living away from the ones who raised me was hard. My mother soon let me go and looked at my outfit. Gorgeous! You look so lovely. David, look at your daughter and tell her I'm right. I looked at my dad, who was looking around the lobby like an inspector. I stood my ground, waiting for him to look at me. When he did, he let a small smile grace his lips.
Your mother's right. You look like you're all grown up.
The world around me stopped as my heart pounded hard in my chest. Did my dad just compliment me? On his own accord? My mother was grinning ear to ear at his words. I was beyond speechless. Thank you, Daddy. However, his cold face quickly returned as he began to look around once again.
I assume that you're ready to impress the rest of the guests, correct?
What do you mean?
The entire board from Anderson Toys is coming tonight. Even the vice chairman's son will be coming. All of them will be measuring your potential
My potential?
to become CEO of the company.
I knew it. Something was off about tonight, and now this party had become much more than anticipated. I gulped silently, but nodded in response. I looked to the incubi, but they were continuing to be servants for my father's approval. I looked behind me and saw Naomi and Suzu raise their thumbs at me for encouragement. I let out a small breath before feeling my body accept the situation. I felt a weight in my gut, but I had to hide it. As if time zoomed forward, all of a sudden, the main hall of the lobby was full of guests. Men and women in formal or business attire showed up to meet me and see my new home. I didn't expect many to come, but I was once again surprised that night. I shook hands with many officials and executive members, putting on the professional face my dad trained me to have. I felt overwhelmed, but I hid it well behind a small smile and handshake. Many even asked me questions. I tried my best to reply as maturely as possible. I had to remember, say what they want to hear, not what you want to say. So, how do you feel living on your own on such a young age?
Now, oh god, I'm doing my best.
Yeah. I'm so sorry about your grandfather passing away. It really hit all of us hard.
Thank you for your condolences.
Thank you for your condolences. Do you have college plans?
Yes, I do.
Yeah, I do. I felt like the questions came up one after another. It was tough to answer some of them because they weren't about me. They were about the company. What do you think will happen with the company now that your grandfather has passed?
It will get back on track soon.
It'll get back on track soon. Yep. What do you think of the philanthropic policy the company has?
It's a
A
policy that
policy that
reflects my own values.
values. So I personally think that's great. Do you think the company should expand from just toys?
I don't think that makes any sense.
Yeah.
And it doesn't make sense.
It should just be a toy company.
If a
Eventually.
company made toys,
Yeah?
all of its existence, it should continue to make
Yeah.
toys.
Fair. It's fair enough. Eventually, the questions stopped and I was back to being myself. Naomi and Suzu were mingling in crowds and the incubi were doing their jobs, so I was all alone in a room full of strangers. It was unnerving to think about, but at least I wasn't being questioned left and right anymore. Suddenly, though, my mom pushed her way through the crowd to me, bringing along someone I didn't know. Honey, I'd like to introduce you to someone. This kind gentleman is the son of the vice chairman. With my mother stood out a man who only looked a couple of years older than me. He smiled and held out his hand to me, silently asking for my hand.
Oh, another voice.
Mm-hmm.
Such a shame. Such a shame that this voice is only going to be in this one scene.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Andrew Lewis. It's a pleasure to meet you, Miss Anderson. Simply nod.
Yep. Andrew was slightly taken aback, but gently smiled and lowered his hand with a nod in return. My mother smiled at both of us, which made me slightly concerned. Why was she excited to introduce me to Andrew?
So, you organized this party very well, Miss Anderson. Thank
Thank you.
Thank you indeed.
Yep.
You're welcome. This praise is very much well deserved.
Andrew then chuckled nervously, bringing a soft fist to his lips to cover his laugh properly before smiling at me.
I'm sorry if I seem a little forward. It's just I've been excited to meet Harold Anderson's granddaughter.
Huh? Why?
He used to talk about you all the time in the office, on how you helped him refine his toys. I only attended the meetings and heard all the stories. You've helped a lot with the success of the company without having to actually work there.
Oh, wow, I didn't know he talked about me. That would explain everyone's fascination with me and their rather personal questions. I looked at Andrew, who had a kind face to me. Something about him seemed off, and I didn't know what it was. He seemed to be hiding something. Whether it was good or bad, I was not able to find out. I felt someone walk up beside me, causing me to turn to them. Next to me was my dad, giving his cold stare to Andrew, who suddenly became tense.
This man is back at it again.
I know.
So you're Jared's son.
Andrew's body twitched slightly.
Oh.
Slightly. Whether it was fear or insult, Andrew locked eyes with my father. I couldn't help but feel the tension between them. It irked me how fragile the air had become, enough to break at the wrong word.
You're the one who wants to be the next CEO of the Anderson Company. Well,
I stared at Andrew. This guy wanted to take my grandfather's place as CEO? I thought the vice chairman wanted the position. David, leave the poor boy alone.
absolutely interrogated.
Yep.
I'm really testing the boy's conversational skills. Nothing wrong with that. Of course not, sir. And polite as well. Interesting. If you'll excuse me.
Uh-oh. Quickly, Andrew retreated away from my family into the crowd of people. Stay put.
And this is the last we'll see of him for the entire playthrough.
Yep. Stay put. I watched
His
as he...
playthrough. His
Yeah?
playthrough's alright, but
It doesn't
we've already
compare.
answered. We've already answered.
Yeah.
We've already answered one thing wrong that we shouldn't do for his playthrough.
Which is not not
We
taking his
should.
hand.
Yes. Now we get back to that.
Yep. I watched as he disappeared into the crowd towards the back of the house. I was worried, but I gave him his space. He obviously needed it.
Yep. His CEO material.
That's because you practically interrogated the young man.
A little questioning shouldn't have bothered him. He's obviously not really any title in our company.
Rude. I bit my tongue. I didn't want to make a scene with my dad. One wrong word and he'd lecture me in front of everyone. That was not something that I wanted at my housewarming party. I let it aside before looking at the clock. It was getting close to midnight, meaning that the party was going to end soon. I lowered my gaze out the window and saw a limo pull up. Huh? Whose limo is that?
Oh, that must be Lewis's car.
I'll go get him. Stay with your father so you can escort your guests out together. Yes, Mom. My mom left my dad and me to slowly escort the guests out. My dad held his simple smile as he thanked each person for coming. I did the same. Andrew quickly passed the doors before I could speak. Eventually, only Suzu, Naomi, my parents, and the incubi were left. My dad suddenly walked over and placed a hand on my shoulder with a smile. I stared up at him, a wave of confusion washing over my face. What?
You did good tonight. I'm proud.
Oh, thank you, Dad.
Keep it up and you'll be a good CEO.
Oh, right.
Alright. Your mother and I have to leave. I'm sure Naomi and Suzu need to leave as well. Just because it's Saturday doesn't mean you should stay up all night.
Oh, please. Oh, right. Thank you for having us. It was a great party. We'll come visit tomorrow or something, alright? Right. See ya. Good night, sweetie. Come visit us soon. Will do. With with all four of my remaining guests left the building, all but my dad waving back to me. With the last of the guests gone, I sighed and sat on the staircase, exhausted. Phew, that was tiring. It's not like you had to do any work.
Uh,
Oh, whoops.
uh, not you had to do any work, though. Give her a break, man. She's getting interrogated left and right. She handled herself the best she could. As expected, princess. Since you're exhausted, why not head to bed? We can clean up. Uh, Hush, Sam.
Are you guys sure?
Positive, it shouldn't take long. Oh, it didn't take long to find you little shits after all.
I felt a hot shudder run down my spine. The voice from my dreams echoed through the air into my ears. I looked around, panicked, and alongside the incubi, James placed a hand on my shoulder, trying to remain calm.
Don't worry, no one will hurt you. Are you sure? Are you really sure?
All of us shot our heads towards the door, finally pinning down the direction of the voice. The doors quickly swung open, revealing a sight I would never expected to see. Skin as red as blood, eyes black and gold piercing into mine, roughened up clothes, and a pistol in his hand. I saw a monster. I covered my mouth to not scream at the sight. Dried blood covered the bandana around his neck as he smirked at me and the boys around me. Beside the red-skinned man was a similar-looking woman in a matching thug-like clothes.
What's the matter, boys? You really didn't think I would find you, did you? I hoped you would, you piece of...
All of a sudden, the man raised his gun at Sam's face and instantly pulled the trigger. We all gasped in shock, instinctively expecting to see a bullet run through Sam's face, but...
What the fuck? What?
What should have been the headshot ended with a loud but empty blank shot. The pistol echoed its empty shots as the man grew more pissed, pulling the trigger over and over in aggravation. Luckily for my ears, it became quieter after its first shot.
Why? Why the fuck won't you work? This place is protected. What did you say, shrimp? This place has a seal protecting it from hell-born magic. What the fuck is that supposed to mean?
The man growled and threw his gun at Sam, who was able to dodge it in time. The pistol bounced off the ground a couple times before sliding further away, hitting the wall in the final step. As it stopped moving, the gun faded into black flame that disappeared into the air.
The previous owner had the place protected by magic, Malix.
Malix, that was his name. His existence resonated in my memory from the dream I had. However, I looked to Matthew in the same confusion as Malix did. This place is protected by magic?
It would seem your grandfather had some sort of protective barrier around this house. From the looks of it, it only disables hell-born magic.
Malix's face grew to that of extreme anger, his fist tightening as if he was crushing a stress ball.
Then why stop me from dragging your asses out and shooting you then?
Out of pure instinct, I stepped forward and placed myself between Malix and the boys. With no power, Malix wasn't going to fight. I took that chance to stand up to him instead of being powerless like I was in that dream. Okay, which one?
Off. Fuck off.
Fuck off! Malix suddenly laughed wildly, staring at me in disbelief.
Whoa. Who let the bitch out of a cage? What is this, a reverse harem or something?
Malix grinned at me evilly, walking close to me.
Duck.
I ducked underneath Malix's incoming hand. I stared at his hand and his black flame tattoo in surprise as I took a couple steps back from Malix. Matthew and Damien stepped in front of me, guarding me from Malix with their arms.
That should be an achievement for you.
Got it.
Yeah, quick one. I'm liking you more and more. Back off, Malix. Don't start acting tough, you pathetic excuse of a demon. You need more protection than her. Shut up! Ah, did I make little Matthew cry? Why don't you just grow a pair? Urgh.
Enough, Malix! The woman, who had been standing in silence the whole time, planted a firm hand on Malix's shoulder. Malix looked back at her with a growl and glare that could kill.
Since when did you get the guts to speak out of place?
We both know you never controlled me. I wanted them dead just like you do, but now's not the time.
Fuck off, I know what I'm doing.
Do you? Even if you did fight them, there's 5 against 2. We never win.
Shut up.
Let's go, Malix. We're wasting our time. The two growled at each other. If they could have used their magic, I could sense that fire would glow from under their teeth. Malix grunted and glared at the boys. He pointed at James, wanting to so badly use his fingers like a knife.
Just wait, pretty boys. We'll get you and fucked up real good.
Then Malix turned to me, moving his fingers to point directly between my eyes.
And don't think you're safe. Step outside. How dare you?
With that, Malix and the woman walked out of the mansion. The doors closed behind them, leaving the boys and I alone once again. I felt my knees give out from under me, forcing the boys to quickly turn to catch me.
Whoa, you alright?
Yeah, why was he here?
He's been closely tracking us. Our blood trail from the forest must have led him here. We should have stopped him and finished it here. For once, Matthew, I agree with you.
I stood up and rubbed my arms, feeling the goosebumps Malix left behind me on me. I couldn't stop myself from shivering in the fear of his words. Malix, was he a demon?
That son of a bitch is not a demon, he's a devil.
A devil? There's a difference?
Yes, demons come from a different plane of existence called the Abyssal Planes. Devils, however, come from one of 7 circles of a place humans know as hell. Despite us not being human, we are very different creatures. We actually have brains for one. Devils always like to cause trouble and try to kill or torture for their own enjoyment. Demons like us know when to use our powers and when not to. We're not stupid. Are you sure about that, Sam?
Are you
sure about that?
Are you sure?
Are you sure? Are you sure about that after yesterday?
I mean, there's
woman, you're going to let me kiss you. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Devils follow orders from higher up in their order, and their powers only come from their connection to hell. Demons all have free wills and don't rely on where they came from to use their powers.
This is all so confusing. Demons and devils and magic all existed, and I happened to land in the middle of it. What do we do?
You're safe. You've been protected as well.
What?
What Damien's saying is that the magic that protects this place also protects you. Your grandfather must have cast it when you last saw him or something of that nature. We can sense its aura around your body.
I couldn't believe my ears. It was the third day of surprises, and this one took the cake in being the most surprising. I felt my head spin once again. What did I get myself into?
Miss, please don't worry. We'll find a way to train ourselves and become stronger to finally finish this feud. Grr, I want to kick his ass right now. Until then, we'll protect you as much as we can. If Malix comes back, we'll be here for you.
But what about going outside? Won't he?
Like we said, you have a protection spell on you. Even if Malix attacks you, he won't be able to use his magic on you. He'd be just like any other human you can fight back against. Didn't you say you knew Taekwondo?
Well, yeah. I felt somewhat relieved that I was mostly safe from Malix. Still, I could not help but feel very nervous and apprehensive about the future. The boys were safe here to train and become stronger, but what if Malix did the same? Even so, I was lost about how my grandfather knew about magic. I had to find out. At least I had time. I went to bed that night feeling nervous. Despite the words of the incubi, I felt like a target to something I'd never be able to explain or prove. Magic? Devils? Demons? How did this all even happen? Should I really meddle with the situation? They're only staying until after they defeat Malix. That's right. They said they only stay until they had defeated Malix. After that, my life could go back to normal. Temporary insanity, as Kay would say. The question was then, what would I want? Would I want them to leave? If my life went back to normal, then I have to care for a house all on my own. I'd get to focus on my life instead of being distracted by the boys. I'd have to. My life. Where was my life going anyway? I was under pressure from my parents with only my friends and the boys to comfort me. Without the boys, I have no way to hide from my responsibilities. Enough. Let's just sleep and deal with it tomorrow when it comes. Defeating my sense of thought, I forced myself to sleep, unsure of what tomorrow had planned for me. Hopefully, whatever the future had for me, I would be ready for it.
I promise to be with you forever. You're so important to me. I swear I'll give my life to you. Please let me love you. I'll be by your side. Always. I can't imagine living without you. I want to be with you. I love you.
I slowly opened my eyes, letting the voices of my dream echo in my head and force me awake. I rubbed my eyes before sitting up and looking at my clock. 7 a.m.? Why am I up so early? I fell back onto the bed and closed my eyes, trying to go back to sleep. However, something kept me awake. Why?
It's called a good sleep schedule.
Yep.
Something that I've got a decent of.
And I'm dealing with changes in my own.
Well, it's 5 a.m. right now. I've been awake since 10.
Jesus.
10 a.m. yesterday.
God damn. It's only like 9 p.m. to me.
Oh yeah, you live -8.
Yep. 8 hours behind. It's too early to even be alive. I gave up and sat up, staring at the fireplace across from my bed. A sigh escaped from between my lips and before I threw my legs over the side of the bed. What to do at 7 a.m. in the morning? Alright, what we gotta do?
We explore.
Let's go exploring. I decided that it was a good idea to wander around the house. I never really explored it much as a child, so there were bound to be new surprises. Well, come on, feet. Let's go on an adventure. I stood and exited my room, hoping that the boys were still asleep. I began to wander the halls on my end of the house, opening each door to find what room each door led to. Quickly, I found an old office. A desk and a chair sat by the far side as a large bookshelf of documents and memorabilia donned its nooks and crannies. There were a couple of pictures of me growing up peeking from the shelf as I walked further into the room. I don't believe I've been in here before. I tried to recall memories of ever seeing this room, coming up with nothing as a result. This room was new to me. Did I want to disturb the furniture? I'm curious. I gently opened the shelves and any drawers I saw in the room. In a couple of them were books and even sewing kits. I assumed they were used for my grandfather's toys, so I left them alone. One drawer, however, was locked, no matter how many times I pulled. Come on, open! Nothing. It wouldn't budge. The drawer beside it, though, did, revealing a laptop. Why is there a laptop in the drawer? I lifted it from the drawer and carried it over to the desk and chair. Opening it, it was a high-tech laptop with a retina scanner and as a pass lock. I was not sure whether or not to try to unlock or not. Try or don't
Yeah.
try. There,
Yes. We will
we
look
do.
at the computer.
I decided to try. I turned on the computer and leaned my face near the retina scanner, lining the camera up with my eye. To my surprise, I heard a ping come from the computer before the screen opened up to a desktop. Huh, look at that. On the desktop were documents and folders, labeled with different aspects of the Anderson Company: taxes, profits, bylaws, products. The list went on and on. And if I really did want to become the CEO of the Anderson Toys Company, I had everything about it at my fingertips. Dad sure would be impressed. One icon, however, stood out from the rest. Virago? I double-clicked the icon, but no window came up. Instead, I heard a large click come from the drawer that was locked. What the? I slowly left my seat and walked over to the drawer, attempting to open it again. Its lid opened smoothly in the direction of my pulling hand, revealing two books. One was a plain black journal with a tie to keep it closed. The other was bound in leather with cryptic symbols all over the cover. I took out the journal and skimmed it through, seeing my grandfather's notes. They were all detailed explanations and opinions on findings on demon magic. He really did know about magic. I sat down at the desk and read through the journal further, finding drawings and sketches and symbols and magic circles, each with their own different meanings and effects. It was all fascinating. There was even a page of important spells to know. I read through them, trying to memorize them in my mind. I don't know what came over me, but I started to feel more energetic and more powerful simply reading my grandfather's notes. I was suddenly aware of the energy that surrounded my body and the power that was around the house. The more I read, the more powerful I became. However, my mind suddenly froze and I found myself walking back to the drawer, putting the book back and closing the drawer. The lock reset and I snapped out of it. Huh? What? I shook my head and looked at the drawer, realizing what I had done. I walked over to the desk to reopen the lock, but suddenly felt the need to stop. Something held me back and didn't want me to pry any more that I already had. I was curious beyond belief, but I obeyed my thoughts for now. Eventually, I would come back and look into it. I returned to bed, feeling the weight of the morning drag me under my covers to try sleeping again. I had the energy, but I wanted more sleep. It was Sunday and nothing was happening today. Come on, eyes, back to sleep. I shut my eyes and tried to slow my breathing. I looked at my phone to check the time once again. It was noon, yet it felt like I slept for so much longer. Why is time going by so slowly? I sighed, got changed in normal clothes, and went out to the main hall and sat on the stairs. Sundays were very boring. However, the muffled sounds of battle caught my attention. Huh? I quickly went out to the backyard in response to the noise I had heard. In the yard were all five of the boys, practicing fighting. Sam was in the middle with the other four surrounding him and throwing punches and kicks at him. Sam, being the strongest of the bunch, blocked and dodged each almost masterfully. What are we going to do here?
What? Let's disturb them.
Hey! And all at once, the boys looked at me, frozen in their movements. I just stood at the doorway, staring at them at my outburst. James was the first to break away from the group, stepping towards me.
Good morning. We apologize if we woke you up.
No, no, it's fine. I've been awake for a while now. I'm sorry I interrupted.
It's all right. We needed to stop anyway. We don't want to overwork Sam. Oh, come on. I can handle more than those pity punches. Your mind seems grateful. We've stopped. Shut up, Damon. Oh, crap. We should probably make some lunch. I'm sure you're starving.
I can handle lunch if you like. You all seem very busy training to beat Malix. I'll take care of it today.
Whoa, seriously?
Yeah, why not? I'm not useless. I know how to cook and do other stuff too.
Well, no, I wasn't insinuating. What he means to say is, we'd really be grateful if you could make lunch today.
Ha, no problem. As I turned to the kitchen, the boys went back to training. They seemed very determined to get better and become stronger. Might as well make lunch today. It's been a while since I cooked. Lunch wasn't particularly hard. I decided to make. What are we gonna go here?
I have no clue.
Let's go with chicken and rice. That sounds nice. Let's do that.
Protein.
Mm-hmm. Simple. Simple chicken and rice. Gotta keep their energy
Cool.
and stamina up with protein. I took my time to make the almost perfect chicken breast alongside some rice. Cooking wasn't hard unless you didn't know what you were doing in the first place. True. I placed the food in the dining room. However, none of the boys were there by the time I brought the final dish out. I carried that dish to the main lobby, catching the boys separating into different rooms of the house. Part of me wanted to go to one in particular. The other part of me wanted to go just leave them be and take the food in my hand to my room and eat. Maybe I could go out today while the boys focus on their training. What should we do?
Fine. We
Fine.
shall find one of the boys.
Yep. I quickly rushed and grabbed the second food dish before hunting down one of the boys. I found James in the library, sitting on one of the comfy leather seats reading a book. As I stepped in, James looked up at me before closing the book and standing.
Oh, hello.
Hey James, I got some lunch for you.
That's very kind of you. Thank you.
James took his food and sat back down, placing the book he was reading on the table in front of him and setting the dish on his lap.
I'm sorry I should have asked you first before exploring the house and finding this room.
Huh? Oh no, you're fine. Remember, you live here too, so any room besides mine is free to be in.
Still, you're the master of this house. I should have asked.
It's fine, really. James nodded at me with an understanding smile before eating his food. I followed along and ate with him, taking the open chair beside his. We ate in silence, listening to the ambience in the room. Soon, however, I began to feel a little restless.
Check out the book.
Let's see what he's reading.
Yes, what would he actually be reading?
I put my food down on the table and lifted the book to examine it. Love and Romance, a study of intimacy. Welp,
Interesting book.
whelp. James let out a small, nervous cough before he stopped eating and placed his food on the table.
Demons and humans are different when it comes to affairs of the heart. I merely wanted to try learning a little more while I had the chance. I found out that while I was looking around the room and had be just begun reading.
Love is different to demons? How so? James smiled before crossing his legs, getting comfy for the small lecture he was about to give.
Love isn't just a human emotion, miss. Demons like us feel them too. In fact, incubi and succubi feel emotions the most because of our link to sexual energy. However, we don't really experience love. We know of lust and passion.
But passion drives love.
For humans, yes. For demons, it fuels our need to breed and increase the strength of our lineage, as well as quells the hunger we have for sexual energy. It's very hard for us to develop feelings from passion, despite how easy it may logically seem.
You hunger for energy? I could tell I struck a nerve with James. As I mentioned the word hunger, his arm twitched, obviously wanting to do something other than remain on the armrest of his chair. He continued speaking regardless.
Sexual energy is our natural food source. It's one of our two ways to keep us alive in the abyssal planes. There are many demons to feed off, who are always willing to give their energy up, so sexual hunger is never an issue. In the human world, however, we've come to realize getting this energy is a little more difficult.
Can't you just touch a human for their energy like all of you did with me?
That only gives us so much. A touch is merely a taste, while intimate sex is a banquet for us.
I guess that was true. Humans weren't all about sex and were probably lot more conservative than demons, at least. It would be hard to gain sexual energy from a human without doing something to them or catching them in the right mood.
Yeah, I would like to point you to a website that is stopping sexual content at this point, and well, I'm pretty sure all the people there, their sex fuels everything they do.
Oh yeah, it's gonna be absolute chaos when it's gone, you know.
October,
Mhm.
October's the fucking death note for that fucking site.
I know. Well, they gotta go earn their money elsewhere. Now that
Yep,
now that's gone.
they could go into adult video. That's a
Yep.
possibility
I think that's like the smoothest transition they could make.
because they're already doing it, so they could just go do it professionally.
Yeah, and elsewhere where it's actually encouraged.
Ah, my throat. Let's continue.
All right.
This is why we have a mind-altering ability to convince humans to give in to their desires. It's not 100% effective, but it gives us a better possibility to get what we need.
What if you don't feed on sexual energy? What's the other way to stay alive?
Food, typically, however, we're weak without actual sexual energy. Without sexual energy, we become less than human. We have no power, no moral consciousness. We basically start to become unfriendly.
What do we just
Are
pick?
you are you hungry now?
You hungry? You hungry, boy?
Is he hungry?
James didn't reply. He simply stared at me, unable to answer. However, I could tell he was. He was clutching the armrest tightly, digging his fingers into the leather. I gently leaned closer to him from my chair and reached to brush the fingers over his hand. If you really need energy, I'll help a little. No sex, but enough to stop the hunger, okay? Once again, I was greeted with silence from James. He seemed very nervous and uncertain about what to do, now that the approval was there. He was also frozen from my touch, softly and barely twitching at the feel of my skin against his. I could feel his hand grip the armrest harder. A small feeling of boldness then ran through my body, forcing me to cover his hand completely with my own before leaning nose to nose with James in its seriousness. Alter my mind if you're concerned about me. I really do want to help you out. All of a sudden, I felt something in my mind snap and ooze into the warm, fluffy feeling I felt before with Sam and Eric. I felt my body slightly heat up as James released the armrest and gently took my wrist. He gently pulled me out of my chair and onto his lap, having me straddle him with my thighs. He stared deep into my eyes, his own glowing in hunger that I would never have expected to see from him.
I won't go overboard.
Before I knew it, his lips were pressed hard against mine, my head being pulled to his by his hand on the back of my neck. I gently moved my hands to his shoulders and chest, melting in his lap and enjoying every feeling that ran through my body. I felt hot, desperate, and in need for more than just a kiss. One of my hands slid up his neck and into his hair as James lowered his kisses to my neck, gently groaning against my skin. I couldn't help but let out a small whimper of pleasure before reaching up and covering my mouth. I didn't want the others to hear me, and I was positive neither did James. James lowered his free hand into my lower back, pulling my body against his. I felt my energy slowly draining, causing me to cuddle closer to James' hold on me. He lowered his hand to my waist, squeezing it tightly as his tongue ravished my neck. His hand that was on the back of my neck, however, gently came around and held onto a tail of my bow. I sucked in a breath, but James didn't pull it to untie the bow. James lifted his lips from my neck and gently leaned his forehead into mine, rubbing nose to nose with me. He was gently breathing fast, softly red in the face, as deep into the moment as I was. I won't go any further if you don't want me to.
You you decided to read.
Whoops. I guess I got a little too into it there. I could feel the hold of his mind-altering spell fade away, but I still felt hot. Something told me that I wanted more, but at the same time, I wasn't sure if I truly did want to give any more.
Keep going.
Let's go all the way!
Yeah.
I opened the opportunity and I was enjoying it as much as he was. I wanted more and I was going to let him keep going. He promised not to go far, but this wasn't far enough for me. I gently leaned in and kissed him, giving him silent approval to keep going. I could feel him pull the tail of my bow, releasing it and letting it follow his hand off from and around my neck. He moved the ribbon to the empty seat before gently unbuttoning the top half of my blouse, going no lower than above my stomach. The desire in my body drove me to move the sleeves of my shirt down my arms, escaping from it and letting the shirt hang around my belly. As he began to ravish my neck and shoulders in hot kisses, I leaned my head back and let a pleasureful sigh escape from my lips. The pull in from my body from him draining my energy had slowed immensely, almost completely stopping. However, James kept touching and kissing me regardless. He was full, but he was hot as I was and kept loving on my skin and on me. I couldn't even comprehend how much time we spent making out. I was so lost in the pleasure that I didn't care. Call it sinful, but I didn't care. I loved it. His touch, his kiss, his heat. I desired it beyond anything in the moment, even as he lowered his kisses down to my chest to just above my bra. My heart was beating wildly in my chest. Something about James drew me to him like a moth to a flame. I didn't know if it was his aura of superiority or his gentle smile, but something made my heart quicken for him. It couldn't been have love, but it was too passionate to be lust. What was it? However, I began to feel dizzy, seeing the ceiling start to spin almost wildly. I gripped onto James' shoulders, trying to signal him to stop, but my mind faded black before I could let out another sound. I felt good. I didn't care that I was blacked out. I felt warm and fuzzy in darkness. I never knew indulging in that kind of passion would be that good. I now just waited to awaken, hopefully in a good way. My eyes eventually fluttered open, adjusting to the sight around me. I felt familiar silks under me, letting me know that I was in my bed. I slowly sat up, stretching from the tiredness that still lingered. I felt a very soft pain on my neck and shoulders, and I could feel my swollen lips pulse gently in healing. However, when I looked down at my body, I saw that my shirt had been pulled back up and rebuttoned as if nothing happened between me and James. I was just missing my ribbon. Before I turned to get out of bed, though, I spotted my ribbon on the pillow beside the one I slept on. It was tied in a nice bow around the red rose that was freshly bloomed from with a small note attached to it. I gently slipped the note from the tie and opened to read it.
I apologize for indulging myself as I did. I hope that you will not dislike me when you awaken.
I stared at the note, unbelieving what I read. Why would I dislike him? I let it happen, and I enjoyed it. It was cute, though, to imagine him asking for my forgiveness for something we both didn't enjoy. I brought the rose to my nose and gently inhaled its soft fragrance. And I indulged myself too, James. I looked at the time out of curiosity. The large white numbers on my phone showed 5:31 p.m. Wow.
Doesn't look like 5:30 p.m.
Yikes, 4 long hours of being knocked out and I still feel tired? It was Sunday, so I was allowed to sleep longer if I wanted to. The remainder of the night passed by, surprisingly uneventful. The boys continued to train with each other, but were kind enough to stop and make me dinner. I was glad for that. Unsurprisingly, the food was perfect, but it felt a little empty without the boys to eat with me. They most likely had already eaten, but still, I felt lonely. I couldn't let it bother me. I ate and went back to my room to study and sleep. Surprisingly, I felt good going to bed that night. I felt like I could have had a peaceful sleep after the previous rough nights I've had. I felt good. I drifted to sleep and woke up almost flawlessly that next morning. No grogginess, no aches, perfectly energized and bright-eyed. Man, how long has it been since I got that much good sleep? I looked to my alarm clock. I woke up 10 minutes before my alarm. Well, hey, I must be lucky today. Karma owed me some luck. After all I had gone through in merely a handful of days, I deserved to get some good luck. Ecstatic for the day ahead, I turned off my alarms before they could ring and got dressed. However, my phone started to quickly buzz from an incoming text. Huh? Who's texting me this early? Yo, Anderson, you're carpooling with us from now on. We're not letting you waste your money on a bus. Get ready and be at your gate at 7 stat. I smiled. My friends were the best. I couldn't drive yet and didn't have a car, so it was awesome that my friends would let me carpool. I checked the time, 6:30. Perfect, I can eat some breakfast before they come. I packed my bag and carried it downstairs towards the kitchen. As I entered the dining room, I saw a plate with eggs, toast, and bacon sitting on the table. A fresh, steaming cup of coffee sat next to the plate with the sugar and creamer on the side. I walked to the table and couldn't believe what I was seeing. Who made this? As I spoke aloud, a small red note caught my attention. Have a good day. Yours. My heart skipped a beat as I finished. I could tell it was from one of the boys. Maybe it was from him? I smiled before putting the note in my bag and eating it up. The food was so delicious, I devoured every amazing bite. I looked to the time again. Time to go. I quickly rushed to the doors, checking myself in the passing mirror. I wasn't wanting to impress anyone, but I still needed to look decent. Before I could reach the handle of the door, however, someone took my hand. Huh? I turned to see James, who was holding my hand back with a concerned frown on his face.
My name.
Your name?
My true name isn't James, miss. I want you to know my real name if something were to happen.
His true name? What did he mean? Why was he telling me this now? I remember reading about a demon's name from a journal I read yesterday. If you knew a demon's true name, you could summon them to you, no matter where you were or where they were. James gently pulled me to him and leaned closer to whisper in my ear.
My name is Raistro.
As he said his name, I could feel it lock into my memory. Something in my head would make sure I would never forget it. James pulled away and smiled at me, despite still carrying worry in his eyes. If you...
Um,
Damn it.
managed there. You managed. If you're in any danger, call my name. I promise that I'll come and help you.
I stared up at James, unable to say anything. I could only nod in response. James smiled before kissing my hand and heading it into the dining room. Something told me that name would be used eventually. Right on cue, Naomi drove up to the gates with Suzu waving me down. I rushed out the door and we headed to school, talking about the homework and the coming day. We made it to school without a hitch. Our lockers were in the same part of the hall, so we quickly unloaded what we needed to and got our important books and necessities. First incident of the day. As I walked towards Suzu and Naomi, who were both waiting for me on the opposite side of the hall, something hooked my ankle and made me fall forward. What? Ow! Hey, are you okay? Who did that? All three of us looked back to see Lizette and her gaggle of girls. Lizette had a complete look of complete innocence, while the girls around her giggled like no tomorrow. Why, you little... Suzu, don't! I felt a giant fire of anger burn in my stomach as I stared at Lizette. Today was not the only time this had happened to me. However, it was clear who was behind these incidents. Even if she was innocent and got one of her goons to do it, it was obvious. It was now obvious that Lizette was the mastermind just from the look on her face. She was no friend, and nor she would ever be. I had to do something. What's the choice here?
You should not do anything. Be the bigger person.
Stand up and walk away?
Yes, be the bigger person in the situation.
Fair enough. My casual playthrough was Getter, but you have a good point.
Yeah, there's only one time I choose the getter, and that's if I'm doing the Suzu route.
No, I wasn't going to bring her myself to her level. She was a bully, and I was not going to let her get to me. I had to be stronger than her, and only then I would have beaten her. I stood up and brushed myself off, pretending nothing had happened. Anderson, are you okay? That was a pretty bad fall. Yeah, I'm fine. A fall like that is nothing. I merely smiled at them, not wanting to let them know the pain rushing through my body from that fall. My arms were quaking, my shoulders were pulsing, but I remained content face. I quickly gathered up my belongings and nodded to my two friends. Come on, we'll be late for history. Suzu and Naomi looked at each other before frowning and nodding to me. Naomi and Suzu flanked me as we began to walk the class away from the gaggle of bullies. As we walked, I could barely see Suzu flipping the middle finger to the group behind us from the corner of my eye. Frickin' bunch of Lizette feet lickers. That's gross, Suzu.
Uh,
It's true, because it's all, OMG, Lizette is the best. Let's follow her around because we obviously don't have lives. Naomi and I
oh
could not.
look. Oh look, it's Twitter!
Yep, very much Twitter. Naomi and I could not help but laugh. The group behind us, however, did not like Susie's words. At least my dad doesn't screw around the black market to keep a stupid casino running. Suzu stopped. Naomi and I stopped as well to look back at Suzu, who was completely red in anger. Suzu slowly turned ahead to the group, glaring daggers at them. The fuck did you just say? I had to act fast. I placed my hand on Suzu's shoulder and gripped tightly, knowing that she could try to push my hand away. Suzu, they're not worth it. Let's just go. No, I think it's about time we taught them some manners. Suzu! I looked at Lizette and her group. Lizette had a widely amused smile on her face, which irked me to no end. Nevertheless, I knew that fighting wasn't going to get us anywhere. Let's go. I grabbed Suzu by the shoulder roughly, pulling her back to Naomi and me. Suzu tried to step towards the group, but Naomi held on to the other shoulder. We held on to Suzu, who fought against our hands as we marched to class. Surprisingly, the rest of the school day went off without an incident. I went to my classes, had lunch, and was anxious to get home. As the bell rang for school to end, I felt my phone vibrate in my pocket. Huh? A text? From Dad? I'll be picking you up today. Make sure you're ready to go when I get there. That's kind of a surprise. I quickly headed back to my locker and got my things before waiting for Naomi and Suzu. Hey, are you ready to go? Actually, my dad's picking me up. Really? Okay, I guess that kind of makes sense. We'll drive home together next time.
Is this where you got to in your casual playthrough?
Yeah, I think this is as far as I went. Because I know I beat up Lizette.
Yeah. You know you beat up Lizette.
Yep.
Yeah.
Tell your dad that we've got you covered from now on. Yeah, alright. Even while I laughed, something didn't seem right. My dad texted me to say this. Was he going to pick me up? Had I done something wrong? I didn't know. I waved goodbye to Naomi and Susie before heading off to the usual spot where my dad picks me up. I took the time to listen to my music while I waited. I need to go to another Rise of the Phoenix concert. Eventually, I had played the entire album with no one showing up. What the? Hey? Dad's never late? Especially not this late. I quickly dialed my dad's number again, but as soon as I pressed call, it disconnected and read a signal disconnection error message. What? No signal error? How do I not have signal? I double-checked my phone and saw all five bars for signal. He must be in a dead zone. Before I finished, a group of hands grabbed my hands, feet, and covered my mouth. I screamed into the hand over my mouth, struggling to pull away from the hands grabbing at my limbs. It felt disgusting and scary. Feeling their hands on me, I needed to stop. Hey, don't you dirty up Malik's prey. The voice, which sent fearful shiver down my spine, whispered in my ear. You're coming with me, Miss Anderson. I couldn't fathom what was happening, but before I knew it, I was blindfolded and my limbs were quickly tied up. I felt myself being carried somewhere and was shoved into something that echoed the interior of a bus or van. The doors were closed off and I was taken, unsure where I was going and why. All I knew that I was in trouble. All I saw was darkness. I felt so numb that I was taken to a place I didn't know of. I couldn't even move my lips to scream. Sounds zipped past my ears, first of the interior of the car, then outside, then an echoey space with whispers and cackles of people vibrating through it. However, the wrap around my eyes was eventually removed from my face and my bonds were cut. It took a while for my eyes to adjust, but I found myself in a warehouse, surrounded by devils, including Malix, who was smirking at me.
Nicely done. I'm sure those little shits will come running to you to find you when they realize you didn't return to your precious little mansion. They'll search everywhere for you.
Malix walked over and set the barrel of the gun against the skin between my eyes.
It'll be so funny when they find you dead with your dead body instead. Name The name.
Let's go. Rastro! Rastro!
Restro.
And all of a sudden, a bright purple light engulfed the room, causing the devils around me to cover themselves.
What the? Mm-hmm.
Gusts of wind rushed past me, almost forcing me back. I covered my face with my arms, bracing myself and standing my ground. I tried to peek through my arms to see what was going on, but the light continued to shine brightly. As the gust slowly started to die, the light began to fade, revealing James pointing a strange golden gun behind Malik's head. James.
It's alright now. I'm here.
Malik stared wide-eyed behind him, unsure of what to do. He had no time to react in case James pulled the trigger. He was stuck, feeling the presence of James' golden gun that was ready to lodge a bullet into his skull.
The man with the golden gun!
The golden gun, yo!
Recoil pistol?
Yep. He robbed it.
He robbed an island.
Yep, he robbed a whole ass island.
Well, it seems like I finally have your cooperation, Malik. It took you long enough. You piece of demon shit, I could shoot you right now. And what's stopping me from shooting you first? If you so much as flinch, I'll pull this trigger and end you once and for all.
The remaining devils stared, trying to figure out what to do. Help Malik's or watch in silence. Eris, however, walked up beside me and crossed her arms as she watched with an amused smirk on her face. Malik's growled, obviously annoyed at the predicament he was in.
What is stopping you, pretty boy? Just me wanting to do this?
With no hesitation, James quickly moved his gun and shot both of Malik's hands. The gun dropped from Malik's shot hand onto the ground as he knelt over in pain, holding his hands to his chest.
You son of a bit.
Before Malik's could finish the sentence, James aimed the gun once again at Malik's head, causing the devil to stop talking once again.
I didn't say you could speak. Do you want me to shoot you in the throat? Brr.
I stared at James in shock. Was he playing with Malik's? He seemed to act like a cat poking a sharp claw at the wounded rat. It was warranted, but not what I expected of James at all.
Now, I'm going to give you 3 seconds to get on your knees and beg for forgiveness, or the next bullet goes through your pathetic, hellborn skull.
Malik's hesitated, but eventually ended up on his knees. However, as he settled onto the ground, Malik's wrapped his arms around James' leg and dug his teeth into it.
Gah!
I gasped, but remained still as I watched James aim and fire a shot into Malik's back. Malik's released James' leg in shock, trembling at the newfound pain. However, for some reason, Malik's didn't fall over and die. He remained still, staring ahead of himself in pure shock and pain. I could only watch in silence as James lifted his leg out of Malik's embrace and kicked Malik's to his side.
Disobedient until the very end, huh?
The air instantly went from frantic to still in energy. What could have been described in tone as the color red quickly turned into a deadly mix of purple and gold as everything began to blend together all at once. I stared at James as James seemed to grow more menacing towards Malik's. However, he quickly looked at me with a face of concern.
Please forgive me for this.
I grew confused, but wasn't allowed to think of it as James looked back down at Malik's once again. James' eyes began to glow a bright gold as James lifted Malik's by his collar and pulled him up and off the ground.
It's high time you discovered the true power of demons.
James' voice had changed, sending a large shiver down my spine. His appearance was also started to change, but before I could clearly see what James was becoming, my eyes were covered.
It's me. Don't look.
I listened carefully and let the last 2 words linger in my mind. Don't look. Why? What was being hidden from me? I wanted to know, but something told me to obey Damien's command. I could hear Malik struggling to get out of James' grasp and the rich, bright sound of magic being cast. I struggled with myself to obey Damien's words, locking my arms to the side to deny myself the chance to pull Damien's hands off my face.
Let me go! As you wish.
The sounds of demonic screams and cries bellowed all of a sudden, causing me to tense up in Damien's hands. Malix began to scream in agony, straining as if he was being pulled somewhere against his will. Malix's voice began to trail out into an echoey whisper as the magic sounds in the air consumed his cries. Soon enough, the cries and wisps of magic stopped, leaving the air as silent as it could be. However, Damien didn't remove his hands.
Jeez, James. I haven't seen you use that trick since that intruder in Demon Castle, but you're losing your touch. You even lost your glamour spell. It couldn't have been helped.
Glamour spell? What did he mean? Why did James sound so different? Why was this being hidden from me?
It's a spell that makes us look human.
I froze. Look human? But they didn't look like humans after all. What did they look like?
Like demons.
As if Matthew knew what Damien was talking about, Matthew spoke up, followed by the sound of a cork popping out of a bottle.
Well, not for much longer. Here. Thank you, Matthew.
I could hear the small clinking of glass being passed before hearing James guzzle down a liquid of some sort. The stiff feel of the air around me gently began to warm back up, insinuating that everything had been returned to normal. Finally, Damien moved his hands from his eyes, allowing me to see around me once again. The devils, including Eris, had fled. Malix was nowhere to be found. The boys, however, had gathered around me, all of them, including James, looking like nothing had happened. What just... I tried to speak, but everything zipped around my head at the whole event, and I felt like speaking was impossible.
Let's just get you home, miss. There's nothing more to see here.
I could only nod. What had happened boggled my mind to the point of disbelief. I was second-guessing everything, lost in the sea of what, how, and when. As we walked out of the warehouse, I looked to James for some form of sign that I wasn't dreaming. James kept his eyes forward, unable to look at me. It was over. Malix was gone, and the boys were finally safe. A wave of relief ran through my body at the thought of never having to deal with that group again. At the same time, a ping of realization hit the back of my mind. The boys were only going to stay until Malix was defeated. That was our deal. As we approached home, I could feel something heavy weigh down my heart. It was late, but the boys led me inside and turned the lights on in the lobby.
Finally, we can relax. It'll be good to have some rest without devils breathing down on X. I'm just tired. Can I hit the hay early? I think some sleep would be good for all of us. As always, Damien, being extremely fucking silent.
I looked at Damien, knowing he could read my mind, and frowned. I didn't want him to know about my thoughts on the situation. Yeah, bed sounds good. I just wanted to end tonight. Too much had happened and I felt dizzy from trying to figure it out. However, Damien spoke up, stopping all of us from moving.
Shouldn't we be gone in the morning?
The air became still with tension. The realization the situation hit the boys like a wave, forcing them to turn to me in curiosity. They had remembered their deal, and were now awaiting me to decide their fate. I gulped, face to face with the reality of the situations. The boys were leaving it up to me. They looked like they were willing to accept whatever I had demanded. It was only fair, though, after all that happened. I looked at James, feeling my heart flutter in my chest. I didn't want him to leave, but would he ask to stay? I hoped that he would say no and ask me to stay longer. As if he knew what I wanted, James moved and smiled at me, taking my hand and bringing it to his lips for a kiss. He moved it away, smiled to me, and spoke.
Oh, the fucking... One of the things I love about this game is the fucking OST for all the little situations.
Yeah.
Like this fucking song in itself.
Aww.
Miss, if I may be so forward, despite the short time we've stayed here, I've truly enjoyed my time here. That being said, would you allow us to stay here?
My heart skipped a beat while a large red blush ran across my cheeks. The boy stared at James wide-eyed, and but didn't dare to speak out. James stepped back to give me space, returning to where he was. I moved my gaze across each boy, trying to make a decision. If they left in the morning, I would never see them again and my life could return to normal. If I decided to let them go, that they would have been for the best. No goodbyes, no delays. But did I want to? They had done so much for me in such a small amount of time.
You know the obvious answer.
Stay.
That's the obvious answer.
Yep, stay. Hell yeah, let's stay. I wanted them to
Yeah.
stay. I wanted him to stay. I merely smiled, staring at the man that I had come to have feelings for before speaking at last. I would love it if you could all stay. The boys cheered tiredly, but none the less enthusiastically. I giggled at the sight. It was cute to see everyone so excited, despite the tiredness that ran equally through their bodies. Today was a rough day. My home is your home, as long as you can still help with the chores. The boys nodded in unison, agreeing to the terms I had set for them. Despite the good situation, I felt myself slowly slipping into unconsciousness. However, James quickly clapped his hands together, getting everyone's attention and waking me up, making sure I didn't pass out on the floor.
All right, everyone. We're all very tired, so let's head to bed, shall we? Oh yeah, sleep's a natural thing, right?
Actually a thing, wow.
We've had a very long day, but it'll be good to relax tonight and tomorrow. Sleep sounds really good right now. Yeah, man.
I watched a very happy smile grow onto James' lips. He shared my excitement, knowing that we would be together longer. Who know how long we would have stayed together. All I cared about was that I would be with him. The others quickly left to finally rest, leaving me and James alone at last. My heart fluttered a bit as James walked closer to me, gently wrapping his arms around my form. I placed my hands onto his shoulders, leaning close.
You are an absolutely wonderful woman. I'm so happy that you let us stay here.
I'm happy too, James. I stared up into his eyes, getting lost in them. I didn't know it was the tiredness or my growing attachment to him, but I felt myself leaning into James' body. It invited me to stay a while, making me forget that my bed was also calling for me.
Listen, about what happened at the warehouse.
No, it's fine. You did what you had to do. I understand. I had accepted everything while in James' warmth. He was real and he was someone I didn't want to be without, even if that meant nodding against my curiosity. Besides, I was too tired to explore that memory further. James nodded before kissing my forehead sweetly.
Come on, let's get you to bed.
I nodded before James lifted me up into his arms like a bride and carried me to my room. I didn't want to leave his arms, leaning my head over against James' chest, but eventually I was slowly lowered to my bed and covered my bed with my covers. I was still in my school clothes, but I was too tired to strip or care. I looked over James, fighting a yawn escaping me as he gently ran a hand over my hair.
Have sweet dreams. I'll prepare breakfast for you again in the morning.
I nodded, with a tired smile before watching him slowly stand and leave my room, closing the door. A wave of happiness washed over me as I laid in bed. I made a good choice. Sure, it would be hard, but I could tell that I would be able to manage it. Help around the house and being with a man who I know who is slowly starting to fall for would be worth it. I slowly felt my exhaustion take over. I let sleep consume me as I drifted into darkness in my mind. Everything was peaceful. I was happy. Okay, what's this part?
Just a little, I think that's gonna call it as well.
Okay.
I think we're gonna call it for today.
Alright, you want to stop recording?
Yeah, because, well, now we're gonna go into, one of the more interesting parts of the story in the next, recording of this.
Okay.